And good morning, Kevin Miller in the morning here at KIDO Talk Radio. We are at Columbia High School. Thank you all for joining us for our 16th season, I believe, of Promote Our Schools, Secure Our Future here at Columbia High School. We've got a couple students with us. Why don't you introduce yourself? You got here before 6 a.m., and you're greeting us with a smile. Your name, ma'am?
I'm Casey Moulton. I'm a sophomore here at Columbia.
Well, Casey, good to have you with us.
It's good to be here.
And I'm Esme Perez, and I'm a senior here at Columbia High School.
You know, I think we've had you on before, right?
We've had Casey on before.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Wow. That's the first time I've ever been wrong in my entire life, 50 years. But anyway, no time like the present. So tell us a little bit about your day and life here at Columbia.
So Columbia is...
You know, you're funny how you've coordinated that. You pointed to her. I'm glad someone's running this show. I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, so it's really fun going to Columbia. We have so many opportunities presented for us here. Like, we're both part of our speech and debate team, and part of our team is actually going to state debate this weekend. But outside of that, working here at Columbia it's really cool because we have so many opportunities presented to us. We have so many different opportunities, whether that be an elective or in class choice or in the clubs you want to participate in. Like, Esme is part of FFA,
yeah.
And they're leaving for a really important competition today.
Right.
So, I mean, here at Columbia, too, everyone, you can't really just be part of one club. We're all very involved in that kind of sense.
And you like school.
Mostly.
You say school is fun.
Mostly.
Now, come on, I have to ask the tough questions here. Really?
Yeah, I do enjoy all the opportunities I'm presented with here at Columbia. And
Yeah. Sure.
it can be very fun.
Oh, it can be.
It can be.
Okay.
Playing off of her comment, I do involve myself a lot as well, aside from speech and debate. I've been on the team for 4 years.
Now, wait a minute. I'm not a potato here. I may look like one, but I mean, let's get back to these tough questions here. School is fun?
I personally think once in a while it's fun.
Once in a while it's fun.
Yeah,
Okay,
once
I'm
in a while.
sorry to interrupt you. Please go ahead.
Playing off of what Casey just said, there are a lot of opportunities that the school presents. We have outstanding agricultural programs. Our speech and debate team is amazing. Our sports are very, very involved. We may not have the best ranking in the state right now, but we are a very family-like community. So that's all that really matters here at Columbia.
Indeed. So sports is, always gets the headlines and such. Mm-hmm. But how is Columbia preparing you for life outside of school?
So for me personally, they've allowed me to be very flexible within my schedule. I am involved with not only horticulture as my agricultural pathway, but I'm involved with communications as well. So there is flexibility in how they're preparing me for life by being not only very hands-on, but everyone is much like a mentor to me rather than a teacher.
Yeah, as part of the Nampa School District, we're presented with several pathways that allow us to go into a field. Like, I'm doing both photography and broadcasting. So they're teaching me skills now that I can apply into the workforce in a couple years once I'm out of here.
I don't know if I like this segment with you two. You're too articulate, more so than me here. Couple more years and you'll be hosting this show. Let's talk a little bit about just student life here. We've talked about sports, academics. What would you like to do once you graduate?
That's a very solid question.
I really appreciate that. Thank you. And you're a sophomore, is that right?
A sophomore.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, I would like college to be the next step, ideally. Now, what I do in college is very much up in the air at this point. I'm really enjoying the broadcasting technology program that I've been presented with here at Columbia, and I see that as a future, but I also enjoy the kind of foray into political science and law that debates provided me. So I don't know where I'm going from here. That's still very up in the air right now, but I do know that there are areas of interest that I definitely focus on right now.
Wow.
As for me, I will be graduating very soon, so I'm already planning on going to college. I plan on going to CSI, joining their speech and debate team for a minor in communications, and then majoring in horticulture. So that's pretty much already figured out for me.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, we thank you, ladies. Anything else you'd like to share with us this morning?
Just that we've been presented with so many opportunities here at Columbia, both through debate and otherwise, and that we really encourage everyone to try to be as involved as they can, because there's really no limits to what you can do here at Columbia, and in the end, it's really all up to you how you make your education.
Wow. Thank you both. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
See, it pays to get here early. You knock it out, now you can go hit schoolwork because it's fun.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we'll say that.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Kevin Miller in the morning here. It is 11 after the hour at Columbia High School. Thank you to Cap-Ed Credit Union. Team Mazda Subaru promoting our schools, securing our future as we move along. Coming up, our great friend Ken Blackwell will join us. Thank you, Ray. Ken Blackwell, good to have you with us here in Idaho.
Good to be with you. Good to be back.
You know, I talk about you all the time. You know, you do so many appearances. You're from Ohio, where all good things come from. And you and I, you know, you are working the Radio Row because you're a big-time politician, big-time public servant, and this was in Tampa. And I'm sitting there, still plump, still rotund, still pasty as I always am, and you're sitting there, and Laura Ingraham was next to us. And you're pretty good friends with Laura Ingraham, aren't you?
Yes.
Okay, so the coolest thing ever that happened is Laura Ingraham is uniquely talented, so gifted on television and radio, but she almost has she's super shy. So you're waving, being nice, saying, hey, Laura, and she's ignoring you. And I go, wow, if she can ignore Ken Blackwell, I don't feel so bad that she's ignoring Kevin Miller. So you start throwing things at her. And I think you hit her like with a piece of paper, and she still didn't look at you.
She's focused. She has a command focus.
Now, do you remember that?
Yes, absolutely. And whatever she was focused on, Laura was focused on. And, you know, that's a real talent in and of itself. But, no, it's good to be back with you. And just as I'm focused on you and our subject this morning, I will not be deterred.
Distracted. You know, sir, I've done this for 23 years, and that is like that is a top 5 story, what you did at that convention in Tampa.
Oh, I tell you, we had a good time, and we moved the ball down the field, and never did I think that I would be a couple of conventions later, actually engage with someone who is more of a rabble-rouser, more of a street shaker than any other politician that I've worked with. But Donald Trump fits that bill.
Well, Ken, as someone who has been a conservative, been a Republican in Ohio, and again, Cincinnati, very different from Cleveland up north, the Trump revolution, you were part of the transition. How is it going in your thoughts? We know what the New York Times thinks. What does Ken Blackwell think? What does the heartland of America feel about Donald Trump?
Well, he has a command focus also, and two of his big items has been to get our economy growing again, change the flow of capital from flowing out to flowing back into the country to fuel that economic growth, that job creation. He was committed to raising the labor participation rate, which he is doing. He, in fact, was focused on getting money back to working families, which he is doing. And his second focus was to make sure that we were both safe at home and abroad. So he has affected economic growth, redirected resources to rebuild our military so that we can fight bad guys offshore. But he's also zeroed in on protecting our borders to protect us from bad things and bad people coming into our country illegally. And he's done it in a number of ways, and everything drives towards those objectives of security and safety, economic growth, and putting Americans back to work again. And what I like to say is that I've seen him give energy to the Jack Kemp notion of building an opportunity society, not expanding a welfare state.
Well, wow, you're going old school Jack Kemp. Ken Blackwell with us at KIDO Talk Radio. For people that, in the age of the blogs and the Facebook and the millennials, can you let them know how significant Jack Kemp's influence was on the Republican Party, sir?
Well, Jack Kemp was a confidant of Ronald Reagan. He was an enthusiastic cheerleader for capitalism and free markets. And Jack never, ever forgot that the economic system that we have is a system that, in the final analysis, serves the individual and individual families. And so he was the first that I heard talk about the forgotten man and woman, and how we had to, even as conservative Republicans, show that while we were champions for capital, we were also champions for working people. And he was able to do that. And perhaps it came out of his locker room experience where he was focused on building teams and leading teams, that he understood that you couldn't leave anybody on the sidelines that could contribute to the forward movement of the ball. And so he was a buddy. I served as one of his undersecretaries at HUD for a little bit, and he was a dear friend.
And we miss him, a great quarterback in his day. And, he was the first person I voted for back in that 88 primary.
Wow. But, and he was a guy who helped me to appreciate that there was, a real difference between responsible regulations and overburdensome regulations, which were geared towards, affecting and building the administrative state, as opposed to, protecting the safety of citizens and workers. So he was a guy who was for responsible regulation, but he could tell when our our industrial system, our industries in our system, businesses and entrepreneurs were overly burdened by regulation. So, he was a big believer that, you had to take a look at what were responsible roles of government versus irresponsible. And so, it gets us to things like today. We know that there's volatility in gas prices, for instance. We know that right now a cabal we call OPEC controls and influences that volatility. And so there is a reasonable approach to fuel economy standards that make sense. Getting standards that are unified and reasonable is important to making sure that we protect ourselves against the control and the influence of gas price volatility from evildoers. He was a guy who believed in free trade, but he also understood that you had to punish bad actors like China and Russia and others, and balance it out with where we needed their cooperation for national security and world peace. I mean, the presidency is a huge job, and it is multi-dimensional, and you need a president that just doesn't look at things in a linear fashion, but does a 360, looking at how things are connected, and then put together a package of common sense policies that serve the American interest. And I think that's where President Trump is going. And that was my experience with Jack Kemp, and was actually my experience with Ronald Reagan. These guys always exceeded expectations of doubters. There were people who said Jack Kemp was a quarterback, he was an athlete, he was a jock, and they ignored him until, in fact, they found out that his approaches to governing and the economy were things that worked, and Ronald Reagan listened to him, as has a host of other folks who have grown their state, expanded and driven wealth in their cities. And now you have a guy like Donald Trump who understands, capital is perhaps as well as any president that we've had in my lifetime.
Ken Blackwell, always positive, always rolling, and we so appreciate you. We'd love to get you back, and you have that Reagan theme about you, sir, in an age where it can be so overly negative to be a conservative, to be a Republican. Could you give us a little sample of that positivity of what to look forward to, sir?
Well, that's you can talk about the darkness of our time, but what Jack Kemp liked to say, you don't spend a lot of time crying and complaining about the darkness. You use your candle. You don't hide it under a bush. You use it to light other lights, and you punch holes in the darkness of your time. Be a leader with your light, and that's the Kemp message. That was the Reagan message, and it is the Trump message.
And it's the Blackwell message.
All the time.
Well, thank you, sir. So humble to have you on, and every time I see Laura Ingraham, I think of you.
All right. God bless you, and God bless Laura Ingraham.
Thank you, Ken. God bless.
Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Our great friend Ken Blackwell. I love that story, and I think I remember giving the play-by-play on that. We were at Tampa with the the Republican primary, or no, the Republican convention. So we're sitting there, and Laura Ingraham next to us, and she's very focused, and she is so true to some of those folks that, on TV, they just pop. She's very popular, as we know, on radio as well. And you're trying, when you see someone, you're trying to make eye contact, and they just don't make eye contact with you, and you wave, and because the human eye is attracted to motion, and it didn't happen. So Ken, who knows her, literally started waving back and forth, and then literally grabbed a piece of paper, wadded it up, and threw it, hit her in the head. And she still didn't look. I'm so glad he remembered that. Anyway, we are at Columbia High School. You're listening to Kevin Miller. Phone number's here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Coming up, a legislative update, and you won't believe what they're trying to do to make your commute safer. What a way to wake up. We're at Columbia High School thanks to Cap Ed Credit Union, Team Mazda Subaru, promoting our schools, securing our future on KIDO Talk Radio.
KIDO Talk Radio.
Kevin Miller, and blessed to be a part of your day here at Columbia High School. Hello to my friend Chad, who's listening, saying, sounding good. It's always funny when people say, hey, it's a real good show today. You're sounding good, as if we don't sound good every day. It's just like I said, it's such a blessing to be out. A lot going on today. Phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. The Idaho Senate has green-lighted a bill aimed at putting an end to slow left-lane driving. This is from Representative Lance Clough of Twin Falls, introduced the bill. The bill does not require slower-moving vehicles to avoid the left lane, but does establish a requirement that vehicles moving into the left lane to pass do not impede the flow of traffic in that lane. Okay, so let me get this right. We don't pass a bill that would make talking on your phone, if it's not hands-free, a problem, to try and stop the people that text. But if you're a slowpoke in the left lane, you could get a ticket. They're fighting for us, aren't they? Traffic and weather together. Our time is 6:20. I like that. Slow in the left lane. You're going to get a ticket. More on that in a minute. Cindy in Caldwell, good morning. You're on with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio.
Well, good morning, Kevin. Thank you for both you and Ray and Maya being over there. And what the gentleman said about our president and going forth, you two work in tandem, and it's great to see you both being leaders, which is what he said, with the light. And you are a light. It's really dark over here. So turning you on, it's always comforting to know there are those other than our legislators and people who are columnists that I just read who do fight for us. So thanks for being there. Thank you for having those two very responsible, articulate, we'll call them because they acted such like ladies. It was just a pleasure to listen to their focus, their direction, and one of them in communication. I was just so hoping, when you read things like the quote, the guest commentary that I just did, and I'm going to have to name her because I'm so tired of her, contrary and the opposite of your two young ladies. Judy Ferraro, the guest columnist, she is forever, and they're printing her. It's not really, she has a right to her assessment of situations on bills and things like that. But she will always drag into it, hidden things, character assassinating other people, denigrating them, or like the bill on the Castle Doctrine. I mean, it was just filled with her idea that, because of course she doesn't believe in the Castle Doctrine or see that it would have any merit. But when she drags into words, and once again they always put, the person doesn't know really what's happening, and so maybe they could kill, an unarmed kid, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I mean, she will go on. She did it with Scott Symes. She does it all the time. And to hear your two ladies that are going into communicate, or one of them is going into communication, it was great. She ends up with calling people liars, people that are supporting Trump policies about his economics, or they're believing in voodoo. They just use the most horrible words. So thanks for having those ladies on. And as we at the Labrador Call Center put together the Trump Supporter Coalition, because I was happy to hear that you had the other gentleman on, because I will say my main thing, especially over here in Caldwell, what's going on is safety. And I thank our president, right in the paper since 2016, Kevin, to protect these kids in schools. Felonies have gone up. I hope people realize that. Drug charges, domestic violence, driving under the influence, 25% in a year. Injury to a child. There's just things that are going up. So thank you as I'm once again, going down to the police station today. I'm tired of seeing, and I'm just going to have to say this, Latino gang signs all over the place. Here we have X4 came back up with their tagging. Now we've got the 13,
Sure.
And so I'm glad to see that people are trying to see, keep kids safe, whether locally
Sure.
and other, Kevin. So I just wanted to put that all out there, and thank you for having the women and the Trump gentleman on.
All right, Cindy, you stay out of trouble.
Kevin, I'm trying to help other people stay out of trouble.
All righty.
I don't go look for trouble. It just seems to be right out my window here as I'm looking at this 13 again.
Cindy, take care.
You too now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Our great friend Cindy from Caldwell. We're live at Columbia High School thanks to CapEd Credit Union and Team Mazda Subaru. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie.
Good.
And great to hear the Columbia theme song. Kevin Miller here at Columbia High School. We're joined by a young man, Ivan. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So let's talk a little bit about this great honor. You're named Idaho Youth of the Year by the Boys and Girls Club of Idaho. You won a $7,500 scholarship. How did that happen, sir? Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. I was chosen to represent the Boys and Girls Club of Nampa due to my academic accomplishments and how much they helped me in my journey. And they just thought that I would best represent Nampa's youth, and just be a source of light for other youths in our community.
Boy, do we need that today? Positivity?
Definitely. Yeah, a lot of kids today, they struggle with pessimistic viewpoints, and the Boys and Girls Club is just a great place to go and be guided through dedicated staff that want to see you succeed.
Where does your positivity come from?
I definitely started off from the Boys and Girls Club from a young age, because after school, that's the one place that I could go and just feel safe and feel like I could go to a place where they loved me and they just wanted to see me succeed, and they helped me to set goals for myself academically and personally. And I feel like I am where I am today because of them.
Schools and school issues are always in the news, and it's funny. I've often thought the way to learn about something is to not take the media's word for it, but to go out and experience it yourself. So when you're thinking of school and issues and such, I don't think that we understand just the good things that are going on in schools today. Can you tell us a little bit about some good things going on here?
Yeah, so Columbia, we have Wildcat Way and Intervention, and we have like hundreds of clubs, new clubs where kids can start them and join other kids, and they can just make clubs about things that they are passionate about and things that they feel that our society needs to look at and it's great that they offer that here.
You know, and again, though, it just seems that we have to fight that self-fulfilling prophecy of negativity these days. Your thoughts? I mean, people are wondering, oh my goodness gracious, we need to do this, this, and this. We have protests, and not to get political, but I think we forget. Case in point, Ivan, many years ago, probably when you were in middle school or maybe even elementary school, and now you're a young adult, you're a young man here, and I'm still about the same. However, there was some stuff going on in the Nampa school system where some money was lost, and it was just a lot of negativity. And I thought to myself, there are good people each and every day doing good work. You're doing great work, and we seem to sometimes lose sight of that in this social media world we live in. What would you like to do to make a difference? Obviously, working with the Boys and Girls Club when you leave Columbia, sir. What are your plans?
I definitely just want to be an advocate for other youth that are going through the same struggles and show them that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and that they too can succeed as long as they keep working hard and they keep setting goals for themselves. And I feel like once they do achieve those goals, that they will be recognized and people will shine a light on them, basically.
Indeed. Any other thoughts of what you're going to do when you graduate?
Yeah, I'm planning on being accepted to Cornell University, so I'm just waiting to hear the acceptance letter.
Great for you. What are you going to study at Cornell, or is it too soon?
I'm planning on being getting a bachelor's in architecture.
Right.
I've always been very passionate about art and buildings, and just the whole scene in New York would just be amazing.
Now, will you come back to Idaho, or are you going to leave us and we'll never see you again, sir?
Definitely not. I'll always be back. This will always be my home, and it's going to be just great just coming back and then just seeing everybody that helped me achieve what I achieved.
Well, congratulations. Looking forward to your time in Cornell, and, of course, the folks here at Columbia and the Boys and Girls Club empowering you to live your dreams. So congratulations, sir. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let's go to Darren in Nampa, who wants to talk a little Jack Kemp with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Darren.
Hey, good morning, Kevin. I'm so glad that you had Mr. Blackwell on. I'm a huge Kemp fan, was for years. I think he had, like Reagan, he was sunny, optimistic, forward-thinking, and he also had a plan. He actually had ideas to improve people's lives. Take, for instance, if you had a housing project, allow the people, and of course housing projects were problems with crime, drugs. It was just a huge cycle of poverty. An idea, I don't know if this was Kemp's, but it would have been like his, would be let the residents buy their own flats, buy their own apartments. So now you've gone from an attitude of you're not even renting, you're getting it for free. Now you get it's capitalistic because it provides them a chance to actually own something. And so now you have a family that's invested in that. They own something. They could sell that, use that on a down payment for a house, use it for a kid's college. But you move from a mindset of welfare to a mindset of ownership, and you've increased the wealth of that family. At the same time, it's his concern and outreach to not just the working man, but people who are trapped in the very worst poverty. I think the party could benefit from somebody. We need more people like that, certainly.
Well, what we have to do, Darren, is get back to that message. And, how many people remember Jack Kemp, and that Reagan optimism. And Trumpism is a different flavor. Maybe it's more geared to the times we live in, but that magic of optimism, the non-racial look that all Americans were the same and had opportunities to achieve. Jack Kemp was so good on race relations.
Exactly.
God rest his soul. I wish he were with us today.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the party's missing. And here's the other one, and not to smack the instant pundits that, they create funny videos and vlogs and all of a sudden they're an expert. I mean, you have to know the history of where you come from, and having Ken Blackwell on and, talking Jack Kemp. It would have been interesting to see if Kemp would have got a little farther in '88.
Yeah, it's a shame that he died so young, and you definitely need to have Mr. Blackwell on again. But yeah, that's the problem, is that the Democrats get 9 out of 10 black votes. And we can't just continue to let that happen. Not just so the party wins, but we're talking about lives. I mean, there's a vision of Reagan, and even in Trump now. You look at black unemployment. It's a vision of people getting more food stamps versus people having jobs. And I think that's the kind of vision that that the party needs moving forward.
Darren, I could talk Jack Kemp with you forever. I appreciate you, brother.
All righty, thanks. Stay easy.
All right, 580-5436, 580-KIDO from Columbia High School, courtesy of CapEd Credit Union and Team Mazda Subaru. I want to thank our great friend George, our on-site producer, Ray Amaya, running things back at the flagship station, 580 KIDO and on 107.5 FM. Coming up, though, I do want to get back to this bill by the legislature. You're going to love this. So apparently now you can get a ticket if you're driving slower in the left-hand lane, but that still doesn't mean you don't pass on the left. What about passing on the right? Isn't that illegal? Is this what we need, more laws? Oh, my goodness. That more next from Columbia High School. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. All right, blessed to be part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning on KIDO Talk Radio. Just, it's interesting. Sometimes you get too attached to things. And year after year at the Broadcast Center, we're always evaluating what we should do, what we shouldn't do. And every year I fall in love with this program again and again. And I know Ray Amaya and George, they're snickering right now going, yeah, let's see when you're on school number 9 or 10, Millie. Or as we like to say, the big Millie. But it really just reinforces stuff that we have learned in school. Let me explain for a minute. This program is so unique. If you're just tuning in, if you've only been listening to us for a brief time, we've been doing this since 2011, in the spring, in the fall. And when we first started, one of the reasons why we did this is, the schools were under fire, under siege. And really for folks in conservative talk radio, they still say, well, what's the value of schools and public education, except, 80 or 90% of us have been educated in public schools. And everybody's always, the schools are this, the schools are that, until it's about their school or their teacher. Which reminds me, thanks to Ray Amaya, the superintendent of schools, Sherry Ibarra, will be joining us in the 8 o'clock hour, as well as our friends from CapEd and Team Mazda Subaru. But when I'm talking about this program, there's no other show in any other format in radio. We're not just talking talk, but music radio that goes to schools like we do, 20 schools a year. We dedicate that time, and every year I learn something, like Ivan, going to Cornell, getting a scholarship from the Boys and Girls Club here. That's marvelous. And what we're hearing, the front page of the paper today, talking about the First Amendment versus the right to protest and stuff, we have been, unfortunately, overwhelmed with a media negative narrative about schools. And I was buying into that until I was here at Columbia this morning. I mean, we're scared, it's evil, it's this, that. No, it isn't. Every day, teachers, students across the Treasure Valley in the state of Idaho dedicate themselves. Like a lot of us, sometimes we're successful, sometimes we're not. But these are the stories that need to be heard, not the negative Nellies. More on that in a minute. Traffic and weather together. Ray Amaya, you're so right. I was going to hit him with Andy Bernard, hit Ivan with Andy Bernard from The Office, but I don't think that Ivan knows about that show, The Office, and we would be probably dating ourselves even more. But again, Ivan going to Cornell, right here out of Nampa, Idaho at Columbia High School. That's the reason we do this program, is to show what's going on. And unfortunately, I think the local media, the national media, what do? They focus on upsetting folks. And I think we have enough to be upset about today, as opposed to the media ginning things up. Why don't we have, stories like this? That's the reason why we do promote our schools, secure our future. That's why CapEd Credit Union has been with us for many, many years. Team Mazda Subaru has been with us because they see the value of that. And sometimes even good old cynical Big Millie here has to be taught a lesson, and that is, we have people with the future farmers of America, people going into law, to politics, people making a difference. And you won't see that on the front page. Well, Kevin, nobody's interested in that. I disagree. I think people are interested in that now more than ever, because it's always about what's wrong, not what's right. And that's our mission each and every morning. Okay, coming up, I promise, we are going to talk about this Idaho State Senate greenlighting a bill aimed at making sure that you don't drive slowly in the left lane. Now, heaven forbid we have something that would encourage people not to be using their phones, texting with their phones while they're driving a vehicle. And it's so frustrating. You know, the scariest things are either getting tailgated or honking the horn because somebody's texting when they should be driving, right? Fox News next. Good morning.